Hi everyone, my name's Jaime and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I make videos about knitting and yarn and fiber arts, all of that jazz. So if that sounds interesting to you, feel free to check out my channel, check out my other videos, subscribe if you feel like it. I would really appreciate it, and make sure to like this video and leave a comment because it really helps me out in the algorithm. I feel like I always forget to say that. I'm gonna try and get straight into the video today because I firstly don't have a ton of time to film this. I do have an appointment to get to, so I'm trying to use that as motivation to not ramble, and also because I have a lot of projects to talk about. So today's knitting podcast is basically just going to be a roundup of all the finished objects and works in progress that I currently have to show you that I've done since my last podcast, which I had no idea was in August. I swear I thought it had to have been September, but I guess it wasn't. I thought I must have done a podcast in September because that was when I left for my trip, but I thought I did one just before, but actually turns out I did one the month before that. So it's now early November. So we have a little bit to catch up on. I've got my coffee. So yeah, grab a coffee or tea or hot chocolate or anything you like, a snack and your whip, and we're just gonna get straight into talking about all the projects. Before I begin, quickly, obviously make sure you're following me on Instagram and TikTok at Jaime_creates. I am very active over on both of those platforms now. I'm getting a lot better at TikTok. So yeah, make sure you're following me on there. Hi, this is Editing Me. I completely forgot to mention that I do have a Patreon. If you were interested in exclusive content, pattern discount codes, a monthly patron-only podcast, I'm working on planning a Zoom knit session as well, Discord group, early access to my YouTube videos, all that jazz, and of course just supporting me, which I appreciate more than anything in the world. Feel free to check it out, the link is in the description. Also just want to give a quick shout out to my Cabled Cuties patrons, Leonie, Sarah, Alejandra, Olivia, and Megan. Thank you guys so much for all your support, it means the world always. And yeah, if you wanted to check out my Patreon, link is in the description. Okay, back to the video. And also, if you were interested, I'm wearing my Heard It Through the Grapevine vest, which is one of my own patterns that I released about this time last year. This is like one of my favorite pieces to wear at this time of year, where it's just kind of like not that hot, not that cold. It's currently spring in Australia, but yeah, depending on the day, honestly, sometimes I'm wearing jumpers, sometimes I'm wearing tank tops. It's all over the place. Next week is going to be like a massive heat wave, but also rain. Unclear what that's going to be like, but yeah. The weather's a bit chaotic at the moment, but I love a vest for those chaotic days where you can just not be too hot, not be too cold, but it's like just right in the middle. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. I have a ton of finished objects to show you. Like I said, had no idea it'd been this long. I thought I was gonna have like 2. Turns out I have quite a few. I actually think I have one more to show you that's in another room that I've completely forgotten about. So give me a second, I'm actually just gonna quickly run and grab that. Okay, I'm back, and I'm just gonna show you this one to get started because it's so big and there's no space for it on my desk. So this is a project that I finished. Yeah, I'm not going in order, by the way. This is like totally out of order and just the order that I feel like. But I'll try and tell you when I finish it if I remember. This is a project that I finished just before I left for my trip, so it was around early September probably. And it was a test knit, and you would have seen this in one of my, not my last video, the one before, where I did a how much can I knit on 15mm needles challenge. In an hour. How much can I knit in an hour on 15mm needles? And this was the project I was working on at the time, and it is obviously now finished. It was a test knit for Brenda from Beatific Brenda, and this is the String of Hearts jumper. Absolute fave of mine in terms of my chunky pieces slash just the color combination of this is just like one of my favorite things I've ever done. So very happy about how this one turned out. I made this using this like odd skeins that I had left over from Cardigan, and yeah, I just had these beautiful 4 colors that worked so well together. I'm gonna try to remember, sorry if any of them are wrong, but this is I think Tangerine Dreams, the orange. The purple is Mauve Nova. I think the blue is Ice Cube, maybe. And then the pink, I'm pretty sure is Bubblegum, but if not, it's Candy Floss, and I always get those two confused. So it's one of those. I'm very sorry if I've gotten that wrong. I don't have a ton to say about this pattern other than just like, it's really nice and great for using up, just like if you have like an extra skein lying around in like several different colors. This was a great stash buster, and just really fun, like simple color work. So yeah, and I love the v-neck. It's a shame I probably won't get too much wear out of this now, just because like I said, it is kind of warming up, but I'm very keen to get more wear out of this next year when it gets cooler again. But obviously if you are in a cooler climate, this is a great super quick and fun chunky piece if that's your vibe. Okay, next up is, yay, my second proper finished pair of socks. This took me way longer than I think it should have. I don't know why, these just felt like they took forever. Probably because I was working on them. Well, I was working on most of the second sock while I was traveling, and it took me 3 weeks of travel to finish an entire sock, which just feels like I should have done it quicker because I had a lot of time to knit, but I feel like I also didn't. My mum and I were very busy, like always on the go, and I didn't find myself knitting in my downtime like as much as I did when I was solo traveling. I'm not really sure why that is, but yeah. Also, we were kind of traveling between places that were pretty close to each other. Like we only had one really long travel, like long train ride travel day. Every other like gap that we had between trips was only like maximum 2 hours. So yeah, that was kind of like when I was on my solo trip, when I would get the most knitting done, was I would have like 4-hour bus rides like every few days. So I would get heaps done, and I was like by myself with no one to talk to. So yeah, I think just the vibe of the trip was a bit different, but still managed to get them done, which was very, very fun. And I knit a whole other project, which I'll show you as well. So giving myself grace. These are my adapted ruffle socks. Everything from after the ribbing onwards, I used the ruffle socks pattern just because I'd already made the ruffle socks by Petite knit and had the pattern and I liked how they fit, but I wanted to make another pair of socks, but the ruffles literally killed me last time and I just didn't want to do it again. So I was like, I just want a simple basic rib. So I just adapted it to have a rib, and I definitely do need to add some elastic to the ribbing, which I've done on my ruffle socks, and it's been great for just like maintaining the shape with wear, because I've been wearing my knitted socks so much. So I'm officially a sock knitter. I already have plans for future socks with all my random odd skeins that I have lying around of sock yarn. So yay for using sock yarn for what it's actually for, which you will see in this video I do not always do. But anyway, apologies that they're not looking in like the best condition ever, because I have been wearing them. They're not like straight off the blocking mat right now, but they're still beautiful. These I knitted up in Super Glow Fibers sock yarn, which I am so excited to use this yarn. Super Glow Fiber is an indie dyer from the US, and this is her colorway Dreamsicle. She dyes such a beautiful neon glow in the dark vibe of yarn. If you are into bright colors, neons, like this, like just check out her stuff. This is definitely one of her more subtle slash like mellow, if you can even call it that, colorways, like not as kind of bright and in your face as some of the other ones, but I just saw this orange and I was like, I don't feel like I have anything like this and I need it, and that will just make the most beautiful pair of socks. Because I think when I'm looking for yarn to actually make socks in, I'm quite picky because I just want it to be not too out there that it like won't match what I wear, but like still like fun and statementy. So I kind of have to find that middle ground, and these were just like perfect, and I've definitely been wearing them heaps and finding that they match a lot of my outfits and whatnot. So yeah, that's been really fun. Okay, another travel project. Literally bought the yarn and started and finished pretty much while I was on my trip, and that is the mini mock neck by Jessie May, one of the many knit tanks that I have made slash plan to make in this coming summer, spring summer season in Australia, because I just love wearing them. So even though knitting them is a little bit painful because of the smaller needles, it's worth it because I just love wearing them on warmer days, because it's just, I like wearing my knits, and so any time I can like really get away with wearing my knits even when it's super warm, I will take. So I made this using Filiclana Arwetta, which I bought while I was away. I talked more about it in my last video, so I won't go too much about the yarn and whatnot, but yeah, really liked knitting with this yarn. Also a sock yarn. Also don't care that I didn't make socks in it. That's what I do. So yeah, this was a wonderful travel project, like just perfect for knitting on the go. I really like the short row shaping that it uses at the back, and then at the front it's like increases. So yeah, a lot of different techniques, and it's worked tops down with like a built-in rib on the edges, which you then like work into the bottom of the underarm as well. So it's like, yeah, really all in one piece. The only time I had to actually pick up stitches to do any edging of this piece was just for the neckline. So yeah, it was like just a super convenient project to throw in my bag and pick up while I was traveling and, you know, on the go. So yeah, and obviously it's small, so it's just super convenient for that. So that was why, yeah, the socks and this were the main projects that I had on my needles while I was away. I don't have a lot to say about it. It fits like a dream. I was a bit nervous about it because whenever I'm making these tanks that have a lot of negative ease, some people will ask me, they're like, are you making that for a child? Like, I'm like, no, it's for me. Not sure how it's gonna fit me, but I'm trusting the process, and I'm glad I trust the process because every time it seems to work out very well because these designers are very experienced with negative ease, much more than me. I am not someone who typically designs with negative ease, slash, I don't even know if I ever have, because it just scares me. Maybe that'll be the next challenge that I take on. Glad I trust the process. It fits perfectly. It definitely does stretch quite a lot, and this yarn is very stretchy, so it's perfect for that. It's a really great pattern, perfect summer knit if you are still looking for a summer knit, if you're on my side of the world. If not, highly recommend it for next summer. It's never, you know, too early to start. Jessie May is like, she's a great I've made several of her patterns and will continue to do so. I've already casted on another one of her patterns, which you'll see later in the video. All of Jessie May's patterns are very size inclusive and very considerate of bigger busts as well. My coffee is definitely getting cold. I really need to I need to get on with it. Another tank, because 'tis the season for summer knits in Australia. That should be the tagline for this video. This one is one that I definitely finished before my trip and yeah, just never showed because I never did a podcast. So this one's been finished for a while and you've probably seen me working on it here and there. I think I've probably shown this in 2 videos. I think I would have shown it in my last podcast, but I also did a video, another how much can I knit in an hour video on 3mm needles. So this was the project I was working on at the time. But yeah, it has now been finished, finally. This one took me months to knit. I don't know why. I think I started it in July. Like, I think I casted this on right after I submitted the first draft of my book. And then it just took me so long to finish because it was a lot. Knit on tiny little needles. So this is Camisole number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And I knitted this up with Woolen Works sock yarn. Once again, using the sock yarn for socks. Yeah, Woolen Works sock yarn in the colorway Ice, which is one of my favorites. And this pattern, I honestly think this is one of my favorite knits that I've ever done. It's really basic, it's really simple. It's obviously like nothing like extraordinarily like crazy. I've never seen anything like this before, but I just think there's something when I saw this detailing that she uses on the sleeves, because, you know, I am a huge fan of like folded necklines or folded sleeve trims or any kind of folded hem. I think always looks so clean. I try to incorporate it in quite a few of my designs. I've always loved it. I think My Favorite Things Knitwear was probably one of the first, maybe the first designer whose pattern I knitted and that had a folded neckline. So I think that was where I was actually first introduced to it, but a lot of designers use it and I just love it. I think it's just always elevate a design. But when I saw this, I was like, no, this is different. Like, this is not just like a folded rib. Firstly, it's not a rib at all. None of the hemming is ribbed. It's all in stockinette, but just this like detail of the way that it's been seamed, like, I don't know if you can tell, but it's like, it looks store-bought. And when I saw photos of it, I just knew I had to make this pattern because I needed that in my life. Like, I need my own knit tank that looks store-bought because I have like store-bought tank tops that I wear all the time. And I just wanted this to be like a staple. And I definitely want to make another one, but it was just like so tedious, and especially the neck trim and the sleeve trims. Like, I think just the sewing of the edging, just the sewing part where I sew down the trims, I think took me an hour for each one. So it was tedious, not even including the fact that the hems were all knit on 2mm needles, which I had to buy online because not one single yarn store in in Melbourne not a single yarn store in Melbourne had 2mm needles. So it was rare, it was, what's the word, niche, and not in very high demand. However, I did need it for this pattern, and I'm glad I got them because, like, you can see, I mean, the tension, if I do say so myself, is on point. Very rare for me. I think just in general, something I'm really proud of with this knit is just like how even my tension is. It's not perfect. I don't think my tension's ever going to be perfect because I feel like it's so dependent on the day for me. But I did knit this whole piece in English style. Even the pearl rows, which I normally don't do, but I was still finding that my tension wasn't completely even when I was having to do the flat rows, you know, before I went down for the body, so just for the top of the front back section, if that makes sense, when I was knitting flat. And normally I do not like purling English style because I've just never really been able to do it, but I taught myself and like found a way. I don't think I've done a pearl stitch English style since then, but for this one it was worth it, so that's probably another reason why this took me so long. I also probably just like didn't work on it for a bit, but yeah, it was just something I really wanted. Like I just wanted this to look store-bought, and I think I pretty much achieved that. The only thing I'll say negative, or other than the fact that this took forever and it was super tedious, the only thing I'll say negative about this pattern other than that was that for some reason, and I'm not sure why this is, like it also could just be that like maybe I could have sized up, but I feel like other than this it like kind of fits me pretty well, is that the shoulders, like the shoulder, what are these called? The shoulders? This part? Oh, I'm going crazy. The shoulders, I think. I would probably prefer if they were a little bit wider, just because I feel like my bra strap is always showing when I wear this. So I don't know, maybe I'll give it another block, but I also feel like there's only so much I can stretch it because of the sewing that I did, like the seams. There's only so far I can stretch the neckline out, but yeah, I might have to give this another block just to give it that extra bit of width because yeah, I just find that my bra straps stick out. And that, to be fair, I do wear a bra that has pretty thick straps, so that also doesn't help. But it's just kind of annoying because like when I'm wearing it, I'm just constantly looking at my bra straps and trying to like pull this out, and it's just like not something I want to be like thinking about. And I'm not one to normally care so much about it, but I just feel like it's like very obvious with these new bras that I've been wearing, which I love. So I'm like not willing to give the bras up, but kind of need to, yeah, just make sure that I can get this to fit exactly how I want it. So yeah, I think I'll give it another block. But other than that, I honestly have no negatives. It's a beautifully written pattern. It's a beautiful design, and the yarn, as always, 10 out of 10. That's that one. This next one is going to be a super quick one, and it was also a super quick knit. I knit this one in a day, so my goal was to do it in one sitting, and I like pretty much did. I think I talked more about this in my last video, so I'm not going to get too much into the ins and outs of what happened that day and whatnot, because it was not the most fun day I've ever experienced while traveling. But anyway, this is my Sophie scarf by Petite knit. We were seeing people wearing these literally everywhere because we were traveling in Sweden and Denmark, and especially in Denmark, like it was just crazy. There was one day where my mum and I were like walking down like a main street in Odense, and we counted, I think, like 6 Sophie scarves in the span of like 5 minutes. To be fair, we also did see quite a lot of like fast fashion stores, but like just general clothes stores selling dupes of this. And look, I don't know if like which one came first, if Petite knit got the idea from a kind of already existing idea, very possible, or if, you know, the popularity of this scarf kind of came from people making it. It was like one of the most popular patterns that was knitted in 2022, so especially in Denmark, a lot of people were definitely wearing them. But yeah, I also did see in one store hand knitted Sophie scarves. They weren't called Sophie scarves, it was just hand knitted scarves. And yeah, and I asked the store owner, and they were like, yeah, they're hand knitted by like you know, an artist here. And I was like, oh, it was like a local artist, but it definitely wasn't Petite knit. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. It was like definitely the exact same design. I don't know, it's a very basic pattern, so I'm not really gonna get too stressed about it. We were seeing people wearing this type of scarf at least everywhere we went, and so my mum decided that she wanted to make one because she was kind of getting a bit, you know, jealous of me knitting so much on the trip, and she didn't have anything to knit. So we bought her some yarn at one of the stores we went to, and I promised her I would help her get through the pattern because she's not very experienced at all with reading patterns, so it was a good experience for me to kind of be helping her through it. But then I was like, you know what, I think I want to make one for myself as well, because I just have FOMO now that I want to make one, so I want us to be matching. It's not really my style, like I don't know if I'm ever gonna wear this. I kind of told my mum, I honestly just feel like you can wear it and you can have it if I don't end up wearing it much. You can share it, totally fine with that. But I just wanted to make it because it was a really fun knit and I used a really, really beautiful yarn for it. So basically I knit like a slightly modified version of the smaller scarf just to make sure that I would be able to only have to use one skein, because I used Cardiff cashmere, which was not cheap, and I was not willing to get a second skein for this project, so I was like, I'm gonna make one skein work. So I did a slightly modified version in terms of how often I increased and how wide I made it. So I'd made it a little less wide than the original pattern and increased slightly less frequently, and I ended up having a bit of yarn left over, so it worked out in the end. And I just gave it a really good stretch when I blocked it to make sure that I could actually like wear it as intended, because before blocking I was like, oh, this isn't really long enough. So I guess let me try and like, this is a bit hard without a mirror, but like now I can do like I can do kind of around once and then tie it, so it's cute and so soft. Like, oh my god, this yarn is just a dream. This is my first time ever knitting with cashmere, maybe my last because it's so expensive, but it was a really, really beautiful knit. And honestly, just like holding it and playing around with it right now, I'm like, oh, this is like genuinely the softest thing I've ever felt. So kind of had to, I don't know, I just felt like I couldn't go to Denmark and not make a Sophie scarf, like, you know, just is what it is. Anyway, I feel like I've talked way too long about this tiny project, so I'm gonna move on. So my final FOs that I'm gonna show you today are kind of connected, so I'm gonna show you them kind of together. One of them still has the final finishing touches to be put on, so I will show that one second. But this is also very exciting because I have a pattern release coming next week, if all goes to plan, and that is for my Aviva wrap top pattern. Oh my gosh, it's all like crumpled right now, sorry. This is my Aviva wrap top. It's just my favorite thing ever, honestly. And I knitted this one, my first sample, with long sleeves in the Ching Fiber Melted Baby Suri yarn, which is like one of my favorite yarns to work with. And this colorway is called, I think, Lapine or Lapine, still not really sure. Might be Lapine, I don't know. Anyway, this was from one of their more recent collections, and it's just everything. I'm obsessed with the little neon flecks. Like, I could talk about this forever. I probably talked about it a lot in my last podcast, so I won't get like too much into it. But yeah, this is the finished version. It took a lot of attempts to get right. It was not a quick process. Like I said, I was working on this in August. I probably finished this, like just around September before I left. And then I'm only releasing the pattern now. So it's been a long process, also giving my testers heaps of time to, knit up their versions and give great feedback, which they have done. I'm so excited to share their versions and to share the pattern with you all, because I know a lot of people have been waiting for this. A lot of people have been messaging me, when's the pattern coming out? So yeah, this is really, really exciting. What I love about this design is that it's all knitted in one piece. So even though it's a wrap top, there's actually nothing that you need to tie up, because at the bottom, I mean, when I'm not wearing it, it's a bit like, it looks a bit funky because I've got elastic, which I will talk about in a second. But yeah, the ribbing at the bottom, it's all worked in one piece. So you basically join the two panels at the bottom and then knit the ribbing in the round. Other than the sleeves, which are not worked, they're not seamed, like you pick up stitches, but it's not obviously all worked entirely in one piece, but the body is all worked in one piece, which I love. So yeah, no seaming involved, and it has a really nice kind of like oversized fit around the body, but then a nice snug fit around the ribbing to kind of hold it in place. And what I've actually also done, so firstly, I've added elastic to the bottom ribbing just because it stretched a little bit after blocking, and just like I find alpaca yarn in general can be quite stretchy with wear. So I've added elastic along the ribbing at the bottom just to keep it in place and ensure that it doesn't stretch beyond where I want it to. And then I've actually done the same with the back neckline. I didn't really need to do this at the start, but after wearing it a couple times, I've noticed it's starting to stretch a bit, and I just want to prevent that from getting worse. So I added some elastic along the neck, so like when I wear it, it stretches out to where it like should sit, but at least it doesn't go any further than that. So I am finding that adding elastic thread to literally anywhere I can possibly add it is like my favorite thing to do right now, because I just feel like it just is so simple to do and makes such a difference. And like, I don't know why we don't do it more, because most clothes that we wear have elastic in like some capacity to keep things in place, because that's just what happens. Like fabrics will stretch, and so having elastic holds it in place. So yeah, I'm like enjoying incorporating that where I can / where necessary in some of my designs, and just in general, just some of the things that I make, to also like prolong their lifespan and make sure that they don't become like, you know, too big essentially to wear. Also really love the I-cord edging on this one. So that was another detailing that I really enjoyed doing. I was like debating doing some double knitting or an I-cord, and I ended up going for the I-cord. And I think it was like the perfect kind of really simple but like clean edging for this one. So while this pattern was in testing, I decided I was going to make a second sample. I don't normally do this just because I generally don't like knitting the same thing so soon after I've made it. I probably should have taken my own advice in that sense, because it took me ages to finish, because I was like, oh, I'm kind of getting a bit bored because I literally just finished the first one. But I did finish it, but I ended up having to modify it, and I'll get into that. But I really wanted to make a second sample because I know that the Melted Baby Suri yarn, firstly, is just like not very accessible. It's quite pricey. It's hand dyed. It's not always available. All the things. It's also a sport weight yarn, which does make it a little bit hard to find like a suitable alternative. There's just not that many sport weight yarns around. There definitely aren't many sport weight like alpaca yarns like of a similar fiber content. So I really wanted to make sure that with this design, I was able to find alternatives that I know work and that I've tried myself, that can be more easily kind of substituted or just like more easily accessible in general. So I wanted to do 2 strands of lace weight yarn, because I feel like lace weight yarn is a lot more common than sport weight yarn, and especially like if you're, you know, a big user of mohair, or in my case I've used Suri just because I prefer it, and I had it I already had it in my stash. But yeah, 2 strands of lace weight yarn held together works charm for this pattern, which I was so happy when I realized it matched a gauge from doing a swatch. So I ended up knitting up this second sample, which has just come off the blocking mat, and so it looks a lot nicer than the other one, which has been worn and sitting in my cupboard and all the things. But yeah, this is the second sample that I did. I haven't yet put elastic anywhere yet, so that's also probably why it looks just a bit flatter. But I knitted this using 2 strands of, once again from Woolen Works, using her lace Suri silk yarn, because I had these 2 beautiful colorways. I had 2 skeins of each lying around. One was from a collaboration she did with Obsession Yarns, and it's called Together Again, and that's this like beautiful purple, pink, blue, variegated beautifulness. And then the other one was Ice, which I used for the Camisole number 9. Oh my gosh, that was so that was so scary. I just checked my phone to see if I had run out of storage, because sometimes that happens and it doesn't like tell me. I don't hear a sound. I have to like go and check. And I had, and I actually thought I lost all this footage. So I had a bit of a freak out, but turns out I hadn't lost all the footage, and it actually didn't cut off too bad. I didn't lose that much. So I am just going to try and keep this brief, because I also don't have a ton of time left to film this before I need to leave the house. So I really love how these colorways look together. I wasn't planning on originally using them together, but just found that it was probably more worthwhile to get more out of the yarn and make this sample. Unfortunately, I did not do the calculations very well. I did kind of anticipate that I was going to run out of yarn, but I just decided to make that future Jaime's problem. And future Jaime did have that problem very recently. So I had to kind of switch gears, and I ended up actually making a short sleeve version. So I'm really, really happy that I was able to do that, because now I actually have included those instructions in the pattern as well. So very, very great outcome out of a unfortunate situation. I really love how this looks with 2 different colorways held together. You could definitely do it with 1 colorway held together, just with 2 strands. Lots of opportunities for the 2 strands of lace weight. Really love these puff sleeves. I just think they are adorable. And yeah, I'm just super happy with how this sample came out, and to be able to offer both options in the pattern. So I just need to get some photos taken in this and put the elastic in and finish making the pattern look nice and making the listings and doing all that. But yeah, hopefully the pattern will be out next week. I don't have an exact date planned yet, but it will definitely be next week if all goes to plan. And if you are watching this and you're not sure if the pattern is out yet, because it depends on when you're watching this, check my website. If it's there, great. If it's not there, just make sure you're following me on Instagram, because I will definitely be posting all about the release and when it's going to be and all of that on there. I'm really excited to finally have another pattern out, because I haven't been able to release pretty much any patterns this year, only one in April because of the book and everything, and that took up the majority of my time. But I wanted to try and get another pattern release in before the end of the year, so yay, very excited about that. That brings us to the end of the finished objects portion. I don't think I've forgotten any that I've made since the last one, but who knows, maybe I did, but I'm pretty sure that's everything. I don't have a ton of whips to show you. I think it's only 3, because any other whips I haven't made no progress on since the last one, so I'm not going to talk about those. But I do have 3 that I do definitely want to talk to you about. The first one is I just have a front panel done, and I haven't really made much work on the back panel yet, but that's just because I've got so much going on and I'm just a bit chaotic, and this is the kind of project you really kind of need to be focused on, so I have to be in the right frame of mind to work on it. But this is the current situation that I have of the front panel of the Myrtle tee by Joan from Knitwear by Joan. That is like difficult to say. And this is from her new book, Cable Knit Style. I talked about this book a little bit in my last video when I was talking about my project plans. This was one of them. I have now started it. I can't remember if I had started knitting it yet when I talked about it in the last video. I think I had, but I didn't show it because I think I was saving it for this video. This is yarn that I bought while I was away. It's actually behind me, so I can literally show it to you in case you didn't watch my last video. But yeah, this is from Gr8, which is a yarn store in Odense, and it's their Volume yarn, which is a soft alpaca wool, so it's an alpaca and wool blend, and their silk mohair. So very, very beautiful yarns and a beautiful colorway, and it's working up so nicely. I'm obsessed with the cables. This has been a really fun and interesting and challenging cable knit that definitely has kept my brain very occupied whilst working on it. So it's definitely a good stimulating knit. It's a tee with the whole collared section, so that's kind of why it looks a bit funny at the front right now, but I'm trusting the process. So hopefully that all works itself out. Just on the front panel, so I need to still do the back panel, and I think the sleeves are kind of built in. I don't really know. We'll see how that ends up going. I just love the fluffiness that the mohair gives it, and I just can't say enough good things about Joan and her patterns. I already have yarn for one of the other book patterns, and I definitely plan on making more patterns from her book in the future once I get yarn for them. So if you're into cable knits, this book is like a must buy. It's available now, so highly recommend. Yeah, that's the Myrtle tee so far. Hi, sorry for if there's a lighting change, and most likely also a camera angle change slightly. I'm actually recording this a couple of hours later than the rest of the podcast because, long story short, I finished filming the podcast, literally ran straight to my car, drove to my appointment, almost didn't make the appointment on time, but it was fine in the end. Anyway, came home, had lunch, went on with my day. And then I thought maybe I'll just double check to make sure that the podcast footage is all good. And I had a look. And for some reason, the second half of that last chunk that I just recorded, I don't know what happened, but something happened with the camera, and it's like flashing, the screen is just like flashing the entire time, and like that footage is just unusable. So I'm now re-recording just the last 2 whips that I talked about. This is just like painful that I'm having to do so much of this again, because this is not the first time I've had to re-record something for this podcast. So I don't know, I'm turning into Taylor Swift, just re-recording everything. Anyway, so really sorry if this is just a little bit chaotic, but I'm going to try, and now that I'm no longer in a rush to get to an appointment, maybe speak a little bit more calmly about these next 2 projects. But yeah, just apologies for all of this. This has not gone as smoothly as I would like it to, and I think it's a sign that I need to stop using my phone as my camera for these videos, so I may need to look into other options. Okay, I think that should be more how it was before. I think my head was a little bit high up before. Anyway, I'm gonna get back into this as quickly as I can and as succinctly as I can, even despite all the chaos. So the next whip that I'm going to talk about is one that I'm really excited about, and it is the Great Gingham Raglan by Jessie. And this is what I currently have, which is only one sleeve. This was not the first attempt at this sleeve, so I feel like I've almost done 2 sleeves, but I have not because I had to frog a good portion of my first attempt because my tension was just way too tight. And this has been a good learning experience for me because I'm just really not very experienced when it comes to stranded color work or fair isle knitting, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure if there's a difference or there's just the same thing with different names. I'm not sure, but I'm not very experienced in it, so it's been a lot of learning, a big learning curve involved with this, but I finally learned how to catch floats, which I didn't know was a thing. Don't judge me. So now my tension's a little bit better, and I had to size up my needles because apparently my tension is really, really tight when I'm doing color work. So we got there in the end. This definitely looks a lot better than it did before. And I'm happy with how it's coming along. But yeah, this pattern is a bottom-up raglan that's worked, like the bottom 3 sections, like the 2 sleeves and the body are worked separately, and then you connect them and work decreases to shape the raglan rather than from the top down, which I've done once before when I knitted the Jenny sweater. But that one you still started with the body. This one you start with the sleeves. I don't actually think it makes any difference, but starting a project with sleeves just feels like really strange to me. But anyway, knitted the first sleeve, really loving how it's coming along. Love the gingham pattern. So excited to see kind of where this goes. But I haven't done much of the second sleeve. I've only done a bit of the ribbing because I've been using my 3mm needles. I only have 1 pair and I've just been like passing them between projects, which is so strange because I feel like I never really used to use them, and now I use them so much that I probably need to invest in another pair because my interchangeable set doesn't come with 3mm. But I honestly probably need more than 1 pair of 3mm needles because I seem to be using them a lot. Anyway, hopefully I'll get back onto working on this very soon. The yarn that I'm using is the Landlust Alpaca Merino 160 in the shades 413 and 414. These 2 pink shades. I got these in Denmark. It's a wool alpaca 50-50 blend, which I just love. I think it's like the perfect sweet spot in between alpaca, which is super soft but can sometimes be like a little bit drapey and doesn't have a lot of structure to it, whereas merino has more structure to it but maybe isn't as soft as alpaca. So I just find with a blend, like especially like a 50-50 where it's just like just enough of each, I find that's where it's at for me at the moment. I'm just loving these alpaca wool blends. So yeah, this has been a lovely yarn to work with and a great project. I really can't say much else. I could probably go into the whole drama of what happened when I had to frog this, but I'm gonna spare you. I'm gonna spare you the drama because what's most important is how it looks now and not what went into it. Okay, and then last but not least, I'm actually happy I can talk about this a little bit more now because I'm not rushing to get to my appointment. I feel like I totally blitzed through this last time and did not give it the attention it deserves, but I casted this on yesterday and I'm already obsessed and addicted, and I feel like I'm probably gonna finish this whip before I finish any of my others, which I feel like we've all been there when you have so many whips and then you cast something on and then you just finish it super quickly because it's that girl. And this whip is that girl. I am currently knitting the Lost Tank by Friday Knits, which I've been wanting to make for so long. I think she released it last year and it was definitely on my summer list, but I just didn't quite get to it. And so I waited until this summer and I've been keeping my eye out for different yarns, like the perfect yarn to make this tank in. It's a 2x1 rib. I just like stretch it a bit and then you can see because it's got negative E, so you can see better when I stretch it apart. It's a 2x1 rib. And this yarn is, I mean, do I even need to like, just like, you've got eyes, you can see it, it's perfect, it's everything. This is from my friend Chloe. This is from her brand new Barbie collection and it's in the colorway Just Beach. I'm using the sock yarn because what else is new? It's the colorway Just Beach and it is honestly everything. I said to Chloe this morning when I was knitting it, I said, I honestly feel like I'm swimming when I'm working with this yarn. Like I feel like I'm at the beach, like I'm in the ocean right now. So you have like completely nailed the brief, which she loved to hear. But yeah, this colorway is just everything. I just can't even. It's like actually the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, can we just appreciate how this knits up? Like, I'm sorry. Obsessed is an understatement. I got this yarn at the She's Crafty market, which I actually vlogged. I just haven't edited all the footage and figure out how I'm gonna kind of make a cohesive video because it was a bit of a hectic day. But yeah, I do plan on posting a vlog from that. But there was a market called She's Crafty and it was in Castlemaine, which is actually in rural Victoria, and that was last weekend. And I went to help Chloe run her stall, which was really, really fun. She had her brand new Barbie collection, which launched that day for pre-order as well. So it was a big day, but she had all the colorways on like a few different bases at the market. So I knew I definitely wanted to grab some because otherwise I was gonna have to wait until later on. And she's like dyeing all the pre-orders to get some Barbie yarn, which I still am gonna get some more, I think. But I wanted to get something on the day so that I could cast it on straight away because I've just been obsessing over her Barbie collection reveals. If you haven't yet checked out her colorways, they are insane. And also the pre-order is still open. I'm gonna make sure I have this video up before the pre-order closes. So if you do want to order from her Barbie collection, I would highly recommend you get on doing that. This is just one of the many insane colorways that she has. So much pink as well. I mean, you wouldn't see it from this because this is blue, but lots of pink because obviously it's Barbie and she's just honestly like outdone herself. So proud of her and so excited about this yarn and just about this project as well. I just feel like I can't stop knitting it because this colorway is just so nice to look at. It's all I want to work on. So I anticipate that I'll probably finish this quite soon because surprisingly the 2x1 rib is working up a lot quicker than I thought it would. So that's good because I was a bit nervous about so much ribbing, but especially once I get to working in the round, I feel like it will work up really quickly because it's like pretty similar to stockinette. Like with a 2x1, it's a bit better than a 1x1. So that's that, and I hopefully will show you a finished object when I do my next podcast because I don't actually know when I'm going to do my next podcast because I am going away again next month. That's a whole other thing. But regardless, I definitely want to have this done before I go away. I'm actually going overseas again. Lol. I'm going to Cape Town in South Africa in December with my boyfriend to go and visit my family because I have family that live there. I love going to Cape Town and visiting my family and just, it's like one of my favorite places in the world. I've been going there my whole life, so I'm very, very excited because he's never been before. So that's happening in about a month and I'm going for most of December. I do plan on getting quite a lot of knitting done there because when I go to Cape Town, it's like I've been so many times, so I'm not going to be like running around all the time like doing heaps of touristy things. It's like very low-key and chill, and I just plan on spending a lot of time at the pool, by the beach, just like very much summer vacation mode. So I definitely plan on getting a lot of knitting done and checking out some of the yarn stores that are there because I've only been to I think only one yarn store in Cape Town, and I definitely have a couple that I want to go to on this trip, so that's exciting. I mean, obviously my boyfriend's never been before, so we definitely are going to be doing some touristy things with him, but I do have like a week before he arrives by myself. Well, not by myself, but like without him. So I think in that week I'll definitely get a lot of knitting done and just be like probably still getting work done as well because I can't really take a month off, but knitting is also working, so that's great for me. But yeah, so I'm not sure exactly when the next podcast will be. I'll definitely have videos up before then, but I really want to get this done because I can just, wearing this beachy colorway, like this Just Beach colorway at the beach, it's just everything. It's everything I want and more. This colorway just screams summer for me, and so I'm trying to get into the summer mindset. So sorry if that's not where you're at right now. If we are watching this, it's going into winter. Apologies, because yeah, winter's not as fun as summer in my opinion. It is for knits, but you can also do summer knits, which is really fun. I think I'm gonna end it there because I've talked so much because I've had to re-record this so many times. Thank you so much for watching this incredibly chaotic video. I am really sorry that there were probably lighting changes, angle changes, me being a bit of a disorganized mess because my phone doesn't want to operate properly. I will hopefully try and get a camera sorted out as soon as I can because it's getting a little out of hand. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and it was somewhat relaxing or interesting or fun. I don't know. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.